Hello, and welcome back. In the first of the series of talks, we focused on conflicts around giving and being given to. And basically, there are two issues. One has to do with not allowing ourselves to be given to, cared about, and loved. Because receiving such positive messages from another person may feel just too good. And it's problematic because the loss of that long desired approbation would simply be too devastating. A second reason for not permitting care and love to enter a person's life is that it could be secretly shameful because accepting being loved would mean a person would actually face how dependent that person is on that love, reminiscent of childhood. Now, of course, we don't tend to be at all consciously aware of these reactions. And as I've looked over this material, I realize that I'm presenting conclusions that must sound quite arbitrary at best, foreign, fanciful, and like made-up psychiatric gobbledygook. But when I worked with patients, the groundwork for rendering these interpretations was laid over a considerable period of time, and patients and I had come to understand each other, speak a common language, and think together. On the other hand, you, the listener who just clicks a mouse to begin a speech, is fed a bunch of strange-sounding assertions. It may help if you understand that these ideas that I'm presenting are taking place way underneath ordinary mental activity. It'll be better if you can keep an open mind and are willing to listen to and thus review these ideas more than once. Now let me go back to my comments about the end of that first monologue, the first discussion, because I promised to speak to allowing reciprocity around giving and to address the high stakes matter of giving and getting in romantic relationships. Giving and being given to are the essence of closeness. Now, it's considerably less risky, of course, to be close in business and even social situations. Romantic and in-love relationships are far more critical, as evidenced by the intense pain of breaking up. Have you noticed how often people don't marry that person who really sweeps them away and most powerfully affects them emotionally? They realize that they're highly vulnerable and they opt for someone safer and less highly charged. Along that line, people, especially as they get older and more experienced, that is to say, they've been hurt, hold back in affairs of love. They protect themselves by being intelligent and by being cerebral. This, however, doesn't really work out very well because it's pseudo-safety. Love affairs are dances and people come together in step, as it were. If one partner holds back, say, getting out of step, the other is almost certainly going to do likewise, so that the relationship does inevitably end up being just as lacking in a self-fulfilling prophetic way as was feared by the person who did the original holding back. Certainly we do need to balance our emotions with our experience and intelligence, but so often being intelligent is just a code for holding back and not taking enough risks for the relationship to genuinely and fully flower. Granted that it can be a scary and difficult balance, this matter of emotion and intelligence, and so often it does feel like you're flying blind. It also seems that the pendulum these days has swung in the direction of being more controlled and cerebral, less romantically emotional. Now, we mustn't forget about that other equally important point, the shame and not actually horror of finding oneself so utterly carried away and dependent on that person that you love so totally. Letting yourself realize just how important that person is in your life can be extremely shocking and humbling. Even in a two-way and equal relationship, you can at times have a profound sense of powerlessness. It feels dicey, and you may not even feel like you're the one that's rolling the dice. Your dream come true may well have, if you're honest with yourself, an underlying nightmarish quality. And being that dependent feels childish and tends to make a person feel quite ashamed, actually. So if it seems to you that you've always avoided that degree of closeness that you wanted so desperately, dreamed about, whether you've prevented real intimacy because of vulnerability to loss or to shame around the dependency, or both, what can you do to lift your restrictions? Well, the title of these talks, If This Shoe Fits, is meant to indicate that these ideas are expression of my own personal insights for you to try on for size. In other words, this stuff is actually psychologically autobiographic. After decades of searching and reflecting, I do have a couple of recommendations. First, find a person who's willing and able to give back. Clearly, that's not as easy as it sounds, and perhaps again harder these days. Then, don't hold back. Try to be willing to give, even in the face of major rejection. Go way out on that limb. If this sounds terrifying, you're understanding the message. It is terrifying, especially at first. And there doesn't seem to be a shortcut, a method around this tremendous anxiety. Just have to sit tight and tolerate all that angst in your gut. And frankly, it doesn't get easier that quickly. It's no wonder so many people play it safe, even if, in a sense, they're cutting off their noses to spite their faces. But gradually you, knowing what's going on inside you and why, become less scared to death. Intimacy, for all its miraculous rewards, is naturally and inherently quite risky. You'll also begin to feel pride, knowing that you're braver in pursuing your most cherished and in a real way dangerous but wonderful goal of fully committed mutual love. Well, if you're at all like me, that'll provide some substantial grist for the mental mill. Next time, let's talk about two related issues. One has to do with the possibility of changing another individual toward that person's being more open to entering into a really giving and close relationship. The other topic has to do with exploring what I've come to call the beautiful, hidden pastel dream that lives and breathes within all of us. It's that deeply buried fantasy, or set of fantasies, that underlies all this bliss and love business. And I'll bet you're probably thinking I should have presented that in the beginning talk, and I think maybe you're right. But until then, take care and thank you.